Awesome. Welcome everybody to the July 27th Toastmasters meeting. This is going to be a great meeting. We've got 2 speeches tonight, and it looks like we've got all our roles filled. Our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Rob Tidd. Rob, do you have a flag for us to salute?
I do, Mr. President. If you will all kindly mute yourselves and focus on my voice and the flag on your screen and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
Thanks, Rob. All right. As I said just a moment ago, it looks like we've got a pretty full agenda tonight. I hope everybody had a good weekend and is ready to get into this evening's meeting. We're going to try out something new tonight for the Cascade Speakeasy Club. This is I could see you're so excited, Rob, already. And I know you're going to love this section too. In the Electric Toasters group, we used to do what we call Joke of the Day. And in the very beginning of the meeting, the president would announce that there'd be a joke of the day. Some of the jokes were a hit, most of them were a miss, but every one of them was an opportunity to get up in front of an audience and speak. So tonight, for the inaugural joke of the day for the Cascade Speakeasy Club, we have Mary. Would you all please welcome Mary up as joke of the day?
Thank you, Ian. In these hot days of almost August and with the COVID thing, I'm thinking about vacations. My husband, John, and I were going to start our trip of a lifetime in August of this year. We were going to travel across the United States in the motorhome, spend the winter in Arizona, and you see what that's like. Try it at least once. But in April, we decided we had to cancel our reservations. So I went into my storage closet and I told my suitcases that there would be no vacation this year. They'd just have to stay on the shelf. And as if things weren't bad enough, now I'm dealing with emotional baggage. Thank you. When everyone's muted, it's kind of weird to tell a joke. And it was a weird joke.
It was cute. I couldn't leave you hanging, Mary. I really couldn't.
Thank you, Mary. That was excellent. This evening, our Toastmaster is Joyce. Everybody, please welcome Joyce as this evening's Toastmaster.
Yay, thank you. Thank you, El Presidente. What a day. I am so glad to see you guys. I had to go through a meeting where we could not be ourselves. That being said, I'm glad to see you. Let's start this meeting out with a bang. We are going to have 2 speeches, and we will have the general evaluator explain the purpose of evaluating the meeting and keeping us all on track.
So my turn.
Yes.
I have the pleasure of being the general evaluator for tonight's meeting, where we have a full agenda, including a few speeches. Before I introduce my team, I do want to give some credit to Lloyd for picking the theme, change and stability. Folks were on before the meeting officially started. Lloyd said that he just dreams this stuff up and writes it out on a sheet. And I think for this topic, there's a little bit more to it. Now, when I first saw it, I thought of myself, and I'm a person that likes stability. My wife likes change, and she likes to push me towards change and things that are outside my comfort level. Fine. But I did look this up on Google, and there's quite a bit to it. There is a lot written and studied about this topic of change and stability. And I just want to read one paragraph from the site that I found. The title is A New Way to Work, and it's The Paradox of Change and Stability. And change requires embracing the paradox that the changes must coexist with a certain level of stability. While letting go of the things that need to be changed, the core values must be kept intact. This paradox reflects the very human need for growth with the equally important need for security. And it goes on and on. There's some pretty deep stuff there. This is written by some doc. So even though Lloyd makes us think that it's something that he just dreamt up, I think there is a little bit more to it, because this is a pretty solid topic as far as my internet search showed me. Let's move on to introduce the team. We're going to have our first speech evaluator, and that will be Pat. Pat, can you describe what you'll be doing for us, please?
Yes, it will be my pleasure to evaluate Jackie Graybill. She is going to be giving her speech on understanding your communication style. Her topic is, what's your gift? And I think that we will all be entertained and enlightened by Jackie's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And evaluator 2 for our second speech is written as Dean. Is Dean here?
Oh, it's Mary.
It's Mary. There's Mary. Okay, sorry, I missed that. Mary, could you let us know what you'll be doing, please?
Sure. I will be evaluating Kathleen McNulty's speech tonight. Kathleen, which path are you working on?
You're muted.
You need to unmute.
Yeah, sorry. I'm in the planning pathway.
Innovative planning?
Yes, and this is the mentorship speech.
Got it. Okay, so this is a 5 to 7 minute speech
7. Yeah.
that Kathleen is giving tonight, and I will be listening for Kathleen to present a speech in her words without full memorizing. And I think that means you want it to look more like you're just talking to us instead of delivering a memorized speech, telling a story that holds our attention and using her gestures effectively. 5 to 7 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mary. Next up is our timer, Ian. Ian, can you describe your role for us tonight, please?
You bet, I'd be happy to. This is actually my first time acting as the timer in these combined speeches. So I had to think about tonight what I was going to use for color indications. I'll be timing various sections of tonight's speech to make sure that we are all comfortably aware of how long we've been speaking. There's 3 sections that I'm going to evaluate: the speeches, the table topics, and the speech evaluations. The speeches are both 5 to 7 minutes. So at 5 minutes, I will wave the green Dr. Seuss 10 apples up on top book. At 6 minutes, I will display the 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish, yellow Dr. Seuss book. And at 7 minutes, not quite red, it's a little orangey, Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham. Speech evaluations, the same order. Green Dr. Seuss at 2 minutes. 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you'll get the yellow Dr. Seuss book. And at 3 minutes, you're going to get the red Dr. Seuss book. Table topics, similar pattern. At 1 minute, you'll receive the green Dr. Seuss. At 2 minutes, you'll receive the, 1 minute and 30, you'll receive the yellow Dr. Seuss. And at 2 minutes, you'll get the red Dr. Seuss book. I'll report our times at the end of this evening. Thank you.
Good job, Ian. Thanks a bunch. Next up is our grammarian, Rob. Rob, describe to us what you'll be doing, please.
I would be happy to, Mr. General Evaluator. My role as grammarian is to make note of any correct usage of the English language. However, I'm also going to point out any exemplary use of the English language. And I'll report that at the end of the meeting. But I also am honored to present the word of the day. So if everyone would focus on their screen, the word is confabulate. It is a verb, and it has several possible meanings: to talk informally, to hold a discussion, to fill in gaps in memory by fabrication. And a sample sentence, so you know how to use it. The personnel dressed in white jackets would confabulate with one another while cheesy, loud music played in the background. Confabulate. And I'll report at the end of the meeting how many people used the word of the day? Thank you very much.
Thanks a bunch, Rob. And last but not least, our awe counter, Steve. Want to discuss with us what you'll be doing tonight, please? You muted?
Thank you. I'm unmuted.
Excellent.
I will be listening to everyone tonight, looking for filler words, those lazy little ways in which we keep a sentence going with an and or well, now, those kinds of things. I'll keep tabs on them. I'll report to you at the end of the meeting how everyone did, the numbers of flubs or not. Thanks.
Thanks a bunch, Steve. And of course, as the general evaluator, at the end, I will evaluate the meeting as a whole. Like at this moment, go ahead and turn this back over to our Toastmaster, Joyce, who will introduce our speakers. Joyce.
It would help if I unmuted. Thank you. I am looking forward to these speeches. Let me begin. Welcome back to another round of What's Your Gift? Our next contestant is the president of a speakeasy, but don't worry, there will be no arrests tonight. Please join me in welcoming our next guest, Jackie Graybill, to What's Your Gift?
Thank you so much. Welcome to another riveting round of What's Your Gift? Now, everyone in the audience, we are going to have an exciting night. Let me introduce Jackie Graybill.
Thank you so much for having me here. This is really exciting. I'm super excited to find out what my gift is.
Fantastic, Jackie. Now we have these 4 gift boxes right in front of you, and if you would proceed to open the first one.
Fantastic. Okay. Oh, analytical. It says I got a 0. Okay, I guess that means I'm not analytical.
That is correct. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Jackie has completed the Toastmasters questionnaire previous to this night's round of What's Your Gift? I think I see some of you in the audience who may be in future rounds of What's Your Gift? Now, just so you know, and just so you know, Jackie, it's as important to learn what is not your gift as it is to learn what is your gift. Please continue on to the next gift box.
All right. Direct. 1. I guess that means I'm not direct.
That would be correct. We're getting down to the wire now, Jackie. We have 2 boxes left. Please proceed to the next box.
Thank you. Oh, okay, supportive. I got a 6. That must mean that's my communication style, right?
Jackie, we have a surprise twist for you. You may think that is your communication style, but open that last box for us, please.
Oh, initiating. It says I got a 7 on initiating. So what does that mean? Am I both initiating and supportive?
Yes, Jackie, that would be correct. Just like you go to the Blue Spoon and maybe get a swirl that has peach and root beer in it. Did I just confabulate that, folks? Or are they supportive of one another? Supportive, initiating, complimentary of one another.
Okay, so.
All right, Jackie, here's what we need you to do. We need you to give us an example of how you use initiating in your life.
Okay, so the initiating type is really fun. Okay, so here's how I use that. I am the president of a local Toastmasters group, and I use initiating in this role because I get to be super fun and outgoing. This is the communication style that really loves change. They love being around people, having a lot of fun. So I'm able to use that a lot in my role as president of the local Toastmasters, the Speakeasy.
Thank you, Jackie. That's fantastic. Now let's go and look at supportive. How do you use the supportive communication style in your daily life?
Okay, I've got a story for you. I was the music director at a local conservatory where I would help all of the children learn their songs for the musical at the end of the course. And we were performing. I was playing the piano at the edge of the stage, and a little guy comes up with the microphone to do his particular solo, and he starts singing, and all of a sudden the color drains from his face, and he says, I don't remember my song. So in that moment, I was supportive of him because I started singing along with him. I didn't stop. I didn't tell him to start over. I just started singing with him. And his face looked relieved. And he started singing his song. And he finished it with flying colors. And he was able to be confident because I was supportive of him. By the way, I think that initiating has to do with change. They love change, and supportive loves stability, right? Oh, that might be a good theme for an upcoming Toastmasters, maybe. Okay.
All right, Jackie, fantastic. We have one more thing we need you to tell us about. How would you combine those two roles in your daily life?
So I've been a piano teacher for 21 years, and having the supporting and the initiating roles allows me to approach each student differently. For instance, if I had a student who was very excited and I could tell they were loving my jokes, I could use accents with them. If they hit a wrong note, I could say, I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Please try again.
That sounded a lot like my voice.
Oh, yeah, yes, it did. I said uh-oh, my Toastmasters group would not like that, but they're not here. So, okay. So here's how I would support somebody who is supportive. I mean, in a supportive role. If I had a student who was very timid and very shy, and I could tell they were having trouble with their lessons, they might have been about to cry, what I would say is, instead of that note, let's maybe hit that note. It's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just fine. And that's how I would be able to use both of them, going back and forth. I guess it is kind of cool to have both.
Fantastic, Jackie. Thank you so much for being our guest. Thank you, folks, for being a part of this round of What's Your Gift? And think, each one of you has your own gift, and maybe we'll be welcoming you to What's Your Gift in the future. Thank you so much for joining us. Back to you.
That was lovely. Ian, would you kindly give us 1 minute, please?
You bet.
Thank you. I want to be a contestant.
That's 1 minute. Please go ahead and wrap up your comments to Jackie.
Kathleen, you ready? Okay.
Only if I have to.
Kathleen is working on the innovative planning pathway and is at level 2, which is an introduction to Toastmasters mentoring. In today's speech, Kathleen shares an experience as a protege of a mentor. She discovered that the mentoring process isn't always a serene and blissful process. Here's Kathleen with her speech, Mentoring Can Be Messy.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. When I finished graduate school, I had a choice to make. I could either do a thesis or I could do an internship with a mentor. I had spent 8 years working full-time and going to school part-time. I was not interested in writing another thesis. I had a degree in social work, a degree in healthcare administration, and I was ready to go out into the world. I set my sights high. I went after the behemoth of healthcare, seeking and receiving an internship at a large healthcare delivery system based in the San Francisco Bay Area. This was in the early 1980s. My mentor was a petite, bustling dynamo of a woman who rocketed around the office in 3-inch heels. She was like a freight train mixed with a spinning top, going and going and going. Always impeccably dressed and well coiffed. She was short in stature, but she was well developed, shall we say. Her facial features were quite angular, and she had some that were more pronounced than others, if you get my drift. Imagine a combination of the Wicked Witch of the West with a diminutive Raquel Welch. That is who she was. A remarkable, energetic woman, very smart, very clever, totally focused on her goals, very good at establishing goals for herself, completely dogged in achieving them. There was not one iota of shrinking violet in that woman. She was amazing. What a great place to do an internship and have a mentor. What could possibly go wrong? It was the early 1980s and it was San Francisco. And the gay community was being devastated by an illness that at that time was called gay-related immune disorder, or GRID. Now we know it as HIV. Working in the healthcare environment, we perceived it as being clustered in a smaller group of people. From an epidemiology perspective, that is better, as we now know in COVID, better to have it clustered in a group than everywhere. We were disturbed to learn from our local blood bank that 2 transfusion recipients had the virus and they had no other risk factors. The blood bank contacted us as healthcare providers to share with us that our blood supply was at risk. They had not shared that with the community yet. It was something that healthcare providers were notified about ahead of time. We went from having what we thought was a confined problem to having an explosive problem. That was a bird of another feather. Our executive group on the 15th floor went into overdrive, working out the problems and trying to address all the things that could possibly happen, from how we would identify people and deliver care for them, to what about the person going to the hospital tomorrow for surgery that would undoubtedly get a transfusion. It was exciting and chaotic. My mentor had an idea. She wanted to notify all of our transfusion recipients that they were at risk and offer them a free HIV test. That seemed like a good idea. She took it to the 15th floor where our executives were. They gave her a lot of pushback. They had some good reasons why they thought it might not be the best idea. However, my mentor was not one to fade in the face of their fury. She fought to the bitter end and she won, and they agreed that this notification would go out. Seemed like a good idea. What could go wrong? My job was to get some clerical people together and gather the data. We had to go into laboratories. This was in the day where the findings, the laboratory information was kept in big, heavy ledgers, and you opened it up and everything was handwritten, line after line of handwritten entries for years, some of them in cursive. Our group took all of that information, put it onto paper, believe it or not, took it back to an office where it was keyed to a computer. The letter was written. We were ready to send out our announcement in just a few days. I felt like my work was done. Until I heard a howl from the corner office where my mentor was housed. I thought I'd better go confabulate with her and see what was up. She had the vice president of our laboratories with her who asked me, what names did you put in? I said, we put all of the names that were in the book. They all went into our data. And she turned to my mentor and said, some of those people did not get blood transfusions. They got other blood products and they're at no risk. 30% of the people that were getting our letter were going to be notified of a risk that they didn't have. My mentor whirled her way up to the 15th floor and she convinced them to send the letter. We had my mentor and I, a big confrontation about it, where I begged her not to do it. So it was very heated discussion. She went to the 15th floor, they agreed, the notice went out. So why would I tell you this story? Not to say that the mentor was right or the mentor was wrong, but to point out that mentorship can be a lot different. It can be a little bit messy. In Toastmasters, when you get to this section and you watch the video, you're going to see a mentor and a mentee sitting at a table, politely chatting with each other, listening actively, giving suggestions, very serene, very calm. The Ozzie and Harriet version of mentoring. My experience reminded me more of the movie The Exorcist. It was chaotic, it was crazy, it was energizing, it was fun. My recommendation to you, if you're thinking of being a mentor or a mentee, understand that it might be serene and calm, but it could also be very messy. And messy mentoring can be rich and rewarding for both participants.
Ian, may we have 1 minute so we can write down our thoughts?
1 minute on the board.
Thank you.
That's 1 minute. Please wrap up your comments for Kathleen.
Thank you. This is my favorite part coming up when we confabulate in the name of table topics. I would like to introduce Christina Stepper, our table topics master for this evening.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, indeed, confabulate we will. Generally, especially this time of our situation in the world, when one hears the terms change and stability, one's mind goes right to COVID and the changes it has caused and how am I staying stable? So we are not going that direction whatsoever. When you think change, think coins. Coins. Dollars, but coins, change for the first few questions. Question number 1. We seem to have, according to the news and signs I've seen around, a loose change shortage. My question is, where did it go? Eric.
Oh, brother. So I resisted looking over my wife's shoulder to look at the questions, apparently against my better judgment. But I didn't want to have to confabulate if she asked me if I did so. Wifely confabulation is never a good thing. Is it 1 minute yet? So yes, I read about this, and I read more of the headlines than I've ever read before because of COVID and all the sports. How are we going to have sports? Major League Baseball is trying sports. Now there's 14 people on a team that have, so it's just a mess. Restaurants, are they open? Are they not opening? We're at level 1, people are at level 2. Inslee doesn't like us, so he invents level 1.5. Give me a break. So there's all this stuff going on. And I'm reading all these things and going through all this stuff. And really this COVID stuff and the vaccine and the antibodies, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, whether they are representative, is fabulous. And it's fascinating. I got to the thing where they're going, we don't have enough coins around. I'm going, I'm not even wasting my time reading about that. How ridiculous is that? But you know what? It's a good question. I don't know the answer, but I am going to confer with Google tomorrow and find out why. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Eric. Moving right along. If you were a coin, which one would you be, Rob?
Thank you, Madam Table Topics Master. I think I would be a penny because they're not making them anymore. And I feel like I'm unique, that they're never going to make another one of me ever again. So I think that I would be a penny in that regard, but not in the sense that a penny is worthless, because I don't feel that I'm worthless. I feel that I have a lot to contribute to my community, to my neighbors, to my friends, to Toastmasters, and that's why I get involved. That's why I decided to be a city councilman. I felt that I could give back to my community and make a difference. But let's get back to the penny. Where are all the pennies? Where are all the coins? I know that I got quite a few here in my home, but to believe that people are hoarding them and it's created a shortage. I find that a stretch. So I'm going to go ahead and keep my pennies. Thank you very much, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Good choice, being a penny. I like it. All right, we're going to veer to stability for a couple of questions. Which do you enjoy more, stability or spontaneity? Vicki.
I would like to say that I'm spontaneous, but then I would be confabulating because I need stability. I need to know what the next step is. I am a person who has things in order. That's why I really enjoy taxes. You go through the form, and if you do it right, it comes out right. But I found that a lot of people just jump from one form to another and just kind of throw it all together, and that's not how it works. I think that I would have made an excellent pilot because they have checklist after checklist after checklist. And I am the type of person that likes to know when I go from 1, I'm going to 2, and going to 3. And I have friends who like to do 7 and then 3 and then 5. And it's fun to hang out with them for a while, but I just get so stressed and I need to go back to my way and do things 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would love to say stability, or that I spontaneity, but I am one who has to be stable. Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Vicki. Back to discussion of monetary systems. There has been some talk about a one world monetary system. Is that a good idea or not? Lloyd?
Thank you, Table Topics Master. Actually, I'm going to deal with Eric's question, which I can connect to that one, because weirdly, I was reading about that very topic today. It turns out that there are all kinds of bizarre conspiracy theories about the change shortage. And many of them center on this notion that the money is somehow being sucked out of the system by sinister government agents who are interested in creating a one world government, a socialist, obviously, since that's the evil buzzword, and a single money system. The reality is a lot less interesting than that, although interesting in its own way. We don't realize, or we don't think very often about a simple fact. Our money's made in a factory. And in this case, the main factory is in Denver. It's the US Mint in Denver. And like all factories, it got disrupted by the COVID situation. It took a while for them to create barriers between the workers and that sort of thing. And then it's inherently a high touch industry. You know, the money gets touched by lots and lots of people. And so that was a problem too. Then another factor was that the generalized shutdown in business made the flow of money stop, you know. And if you think about it, when you don't go to the store, you're not going to get change for the bills you hand over, obviously. And then finally, and this is the most interesting part to me, is that the main source for recycling money in the US is Coinstar. You know, those machines that you see? Well, because people couldn't or wouldn't go into the stores, they weren't dumping their spare change into the Coinstar machines. Coinstar provides 50 billion coins a year back to the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is what spreads all the money out to the banks. And so it turns out that it wasn't a conspiracy, but it was a very complex series of just oddball events. And one result of that is that it is not so easy to get change anymore. The stores are having a terrible problem. So lots of them are rounding up or rounding down prices. Although in reality, guess which one happens more often than the other? Madam Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you for educating us on that with a great confabulation. Now to the topic of change with the definition of transition. If you could change identities with a superhero, who would you choose? Ian.
Easy. I'm Batman. I love watching superhero movies. My kids love watching superhero movies. There is a skit on YouTube, Bat Dad. After I saw that, I thought, that's me with my kids. We're always messing around pretending to be superheroes. And I picked up on the Bat Dad thing. I always liked Batman ever since I was a little kid. He had the coolest cars, the neatest gadgets. He had crazy, bizarre friends that had unique talents. I love Batman. He's just, he's got all the toys, and I like toys. I like gadgets. Besides that, he's just tough. He can be out in the daylight in one person and step into his shadows, and he becomes somebody completely different. He gets to live two different lives. So many superheroes get to live multiple lives. But how cool would it be to just have your day self and your night self and still be the same person? I would be Batman. Thank you.
Thank you. 1:40.
Might be a confabulation. But
That's close. Next question, back to stability. If you could toss stability out the window without any consequences, what would you do? Steve Schwind.
If I could throw stability out the window with no consequences, I'd probably do what I do right now. I'm happy to crash around in life and take it on. You could say there's a level of Tourette's that exists within me. I've been known to say things that I would prefer not to have said, that some people find humorous and other people are wowed into a state of dumbfoundedness. It allows for great confabulation each and every day of my life, leading people down a path that they're not certain where it will come out. I wouldn't see it as being terribly different than the way my life is right now. I pay a price for some of it. For the most part, I provide good entertainment for the people around me, and I enjoy my life pretty well. I think a lot of other people do too. I don't think I'd change much. I'd just keep being me. Ms. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Steve. We have 1.5-ish remaining. This is a tough one. Back to change, the money side. You've probably heard the term loose change. Why is it called that? And perhaps more important, what is the opposite of loose change? Joyce.
Loose change versus package change. Loose change doesn't come in those little rolls that you can get from the bank when you need to do your laundry at a laundromat because your washer and dryer bit the dust when it knew that it had a huge load to do. Thank you, Maytag. I find that loose change is like water sometimes. It goes everywhere. Anyone who has spilled their purse over can attest to the fact that those coins can go a very, very long way. And it's hard to pick them up with your fingers while they're still rolling And it's kind of funny that if you fall down, people will help you up as soon as they stop laughing, of course. But when you drop coins, everyone backs away. It's sort of like how I am when I get dragged into watching someone get married. And at the reception, they throw the garter and the guys are all over it and they throw the flowers. I dive under a table like it's a hand grenade. I digress. Loose change is not in rolls. And the roll change, as I call it, is good for any laundromat anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for your confabulations on change stability. I will now turn the meeting back to our master of toast and butter, Joyce.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. This is the highlight of my week. I tell you, this is just, I live for this. I am going to, in turn, get my brain to try to say what my mouth wants it to say and turn the meeting back over to the general evaluator.
Thank you, Joyce. I had a lot of fun with those table topics and both of those speeches. I haven't laughed this much in quite a long time. I was pretty entertained with it all. Interesting to hear what our evaluators had to say. So Pat, you come on up and share with us your evaluation of, what was it? Jackie's speech. Thanks.
What a great opportunity to confabulate. This was very challenging and very original in that Jackie decided to play two roles, that of the MC and that of Jackie, the potential speaker, and she handled that very, very well in terms of her voice placement, in terms of the quality of her voice and the way that she responded. There was lots of energy there. The other thing is it was very well organized. She broke it down into categories, the analytical, the direct, the supportive, and the initiating qualities that one might have and how the feedback was from the person evaluating her. Excellent eye contact. And it was clearly devoted to her communication style, which is what was the theme of this particular speech that she was giving, and its impact upon herself and upon others. And again, that was one of the criteria for this particular speech. She had great facial expressions, and she caught herself saying but she handled that so gracefully and wove it right into her role play. I thought that was excellent. You might want to work on varying your gestures. There were two main gestures. One was the wide palm extension of the arms, and the other was the hands here. So think about that, other ways that you might use hand gestures in a speech that's going to be highly visible. You really took a great risk in doing this. This is the first one of these that I've seen while I've been involved in Toastmasters. It was original, and I couldn't think of one thing you could have done to challenge yourself. I would say, well done. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you much, Pat. I couldn't agree more. I thought that was great how she moved between the two characters. Next up, Mary, could you come on and tell us or give us your evaluation of Steve's speech, please?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Thanks, Ron. And I want to give a shout out to Kelly too. I see logged in. Hi, Kelly. Kathleen, I'm glad that I ended up being your evaluator because this is a speech I just gave, and there's some parallels here. We both had really interesting, almost pathological mentors to deal with. And you're right, you do learn a lot when you have to work with characters like that. For your evaluation, I'm going to go through your 3 points that you wanted to work on. And gosh, I think you did. I could end the evaluation right now. You did great on all of them, but I'll go into more detail too. back that up. You wanted to present without full memorizing. You stood up, which really, that helps a lot, doesn't it? When you're standing up and you can kind of loosen up and give your speech. But importantly, you were looking right at that camera. You were looking right at us. And so it was for an online speech, it was a very intimate speech. We really felt like you were communicating to each one of us individually. So I think you did a really, really good job of that. You wanted to tell a story that holds the listener's attention. And once you got into the healthcare scene that you were in with San Francisco and the beginning of the AIDS epidemic, you really had our attention. I mean, that was a story that parallels in some ways what we're going through right now with a whole population. That was almost like the test run for what we're going through at this moment. So, you know, I can't think of a better story that you could have told. Well, how do I know? I don't know your whole life, so I don't know why I said that. But that was very effective. Good choice. You wanted to use gestures effectively, and you did. And, you know, standing up helps with that. Sometimes maybe you were almost choreographing things. There was that overdrive spiral, and yeah, maybe it was unnecessary, but still your gestures were very welcoming and pulled the audience in. The challenge I'm going to give, and it's kind of hard to find a challenge, it was such a good speech. I think you went a little bit overboard in describing your mentor. The phrasing was fabulous. They were funny, they were to the point. You had rocket, freight train, spinning top. She was a Wicked Witch of the West combined with Raquel Welch. It was really funny, but if you're having trouble with timing, that's probably a place where you could pull out some of the descriptions. And what I loved about it most was that you ended it with a lessons learned about messy mentoring. And yeah, I was amused too at Toastmasters, having all these smiley face people with their perfect mentor and protege relationships. It doesn't work that way in the real world. And I'm glad that you brought that lesson to the fore again. Thank you for a great speech. It was fun to listen to. Bravo.
Thank you, Mary. Good job. Next up is Ian with our timers report.
Thanks, Rob. Rob. Jackie, 6 minutes and 47 seconds for your speech tonight. Kathleen, 8:08. Just as Mary said, if you wanted to streamline that speech at all, if you would take a little bit of the description of your mentor out, I think you would have been right on time. For table topics, Eric, minute 35. Rob, you're at 1:27. Vicky, 1:23. Lloyd, you came in at 2:14. I timed myself at 1:25. Steve, a minute 18. Joyce, a minute 28. Pat, you are 2:03 with your evaluation of Jackie's speech. And Mary, you are at 3:25 with your evaluation of Kathleen's speech. Nice job, everybody.
Good summary, Ian. Thank you. Next up is Rob with the grammarian report.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I just wanted to add a couple things quickly about the speeches, the main speeches tonight. Jackie, I thought that was fantastic. Thank goodness that was a speech and that you don't necessarily have a split personality. I just wanted to make sure that that's not the case. Kathleen, you added so much color to your speech tonight. I really enjoyed some of the expressions you used. The shrinking violet, the bird of another feather, the Ozzie and Harriet analogy. But what I really wanted to say is that you actually named the actress who I had a super crush on when I was a kid. Anytime you mention Raquel Welch, I get a little wiggy. Let me get back on track. As to the word of the day, Everyone did a pretty darn good job. Joyce, you used it once. Jackie, you used it once in your speech. Fantastic. Kathleen, you used it in your speech. Vicky, you used it once. Steve, you used it once. Pat, you used it once. And the award goes to Christina and Eric, who each used it 3 times. Well done. Good job, everyone. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Last up, Steve, could you share with us your counters report, please?
Thank you. Mary, you're typically the queen of clean, right up there with Christina. Tonight, however, we had a couple of ands and yeah, and a so, and a but. Joyce, you were clean. If you weren't, I just didn't hear you. Ian, pretty good with 1 and. Ron, you had an ah, and that's all I caught. And Kathleen, none, you were just jamming right to the end, and then you ended up with an and a so that I caught. I was really cheering for you to go all the way. Rob, an ah and a so. Jackie, maybe it was the alter ego that came out. You had a ah, 5 so's, and 4 okays. Seemed like a little favorite of yours. Christina, clean. Eric, couple of so's. Vicky, 1 so. Lloyd, an and, a so, and a and so. And I didn't hear a word I said, so I'm not sure if I dropped the ball or not. That is my report for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, team. Everyone did a great job there. Overall, another very successful meeting like these typically are. We had a full agenda. We had one role that wasn't filled, and that was the speech evaluator, but Mary quickly stepped in to fill that. I appreciated table topics, and Christina, the way that you bounce between change and stability. And I like for change, we're going to talk about coins, so we can just get this off to a good positive start. And the only one that wanted to talk about COVID was the guy sitting next to you there. Oh, well. Rob, with the grammarian, you referred to yourself as Wiggy. I thought that was pretty cool, by the way. I think the only person that really butchered anything here was me. For some odd reason, I had a senior moment and couldn't remember Jackie's name and then referred to Kathleen as Steve, so I apologize for that. And I think that even influenced Ian to some degree because he referred to me as Rob, and I'd be willing to wager all of my loose change that he wouldn't have done that if I hadn't set the stage with our 2 speakers. It's all fun and games, right? Anyway, again, good meeting, enjoyed it all, certainly enjoyed the speeches, and let's go ahead and turn it back over to our president, Ian, to get us closed out.
Oh, before we do, we got to do a vote.
Okay, who do you want to send that to?
You can send it to me, Ron.
Yep. Okay, so vote for our best speaker for the evening. Go ahead and send that off to Rob, and he's actually no way. Okay, Ian, you want to take it away?
Thanks, Ron. Is there any comments from our VP Education, Lloyd?
Well, 2 things. First, do all of you like the joke of the day idea? Should we add that to our agenda? Okay, we will do that from now on. Typically in the Toasters, the way it worked was that the president or whoever, if there was no person who had agreed to do it first, would ask for volunteers. But that was a 7 a.m. meeting, and funny in 7 a.m. frequently don't go together well. So maybe we'd have a little better time with the evening meeting on that. The other thing is that the Toastmasters International Convention is coming up starting, I think it's the 24th of August. It's going to be a virtual event, an online virtual event, free to everyone. It includes all the educational sessions plus the speech contest. And the interesting thing about that is that lots and lots of people are having to do much more online speaking than is typically the case because of all of this COVID thing. These are going to be world-class speakers speaking on video, and it might be worth paying attention to how they handle that. They haven't opened registration yet. I don't think, Vicki, have they?
August 1st is the rumor.
Okay, the rumor for our online registration. When that comes out, I'll pass the word to everybody. Back to you, Ian.
Thanks, Lloyd. My comments of the evening are, first off, thank you all. This has been a very enjoyable evening. I want to thank Lloyd, especially for these really creative themes that he comes up with for the evening sessions. Thank Lloyd for all the hard work he's been putting in developing these agendas and placing people in roles that work out well. I have yet to volunteer for a role, but I've managed to be in a role, I think, every week. Thanks, Lloyd, for that. Other than that, I don't see any other notes on my agenda that I scribbled down. We're a little bit over. Rob, you've got a comment?
I have the results of the voting this evening. It was a very tight race between a couple of people, but the winner this evening for the best speech was Kathleen McNulty. Congratulations, Kathleen.
Congratulations, Kathleen. That was a great speech. Is there any other comments? As I scroll through, nobody else? All right. Thanks, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
next week.